Hello, and welcome back to another Pauper video. So we're carrying on in our Izzet Fae preparations for the UK Pauper Nationals tournament. We're playing Izzet Fae because I believe it's really well positioned. I really like this 75. We have made a few small changes. We're changing some lightning bolts to some galvanic discharges. This is the energy card from MH3. Obviously it's a 1-mana spell that on the surface deals 3 damage to the creature. We do see a lot of cards. We do often, games do go quite long, so there's chances for us to accumulate some energy early on and then pay it off on a bigger creature down the line. So I think that change makes sense. Obviously there's spots where Lightning Bolt is the best card you could draw opponents on 3 life or less, and if that comes up we'll have to keep track of it. We're also changing one of the Ninja of the D-Powers for a preordain. I'm much higher on Moonsucker Hacker than Ninja the D-Powers, just because of, you've got quite a lot of things to do. There's a lot of ways to keep cards coming in, and so the 2 mana for the Ninja is a lot more than the 1. Looting is good enough. You win the games with your looting, you don't need Ninja, so that's the reason on that card choice. Adding the Preordain is kind of serving as an 18.5 land. We will see how that comes up, and as I say, this is kind of our try-harding. We're always hoping for trophies, but if we can keep up, 4-1, we're 9-1 so far in our leagues with this. So we just keep going at that rate, and we'll feel vindicated in taking this deck to our tournament. Right, let's jump into the league. Okay, so we're on the playing our first round. I'm going to keep, but this isn't a hand that fills you with confidence. We've got some interaction we've got to play. Obviously we'd rather have something to pick this ninja up. We're a bit heavy on the lands, a bit low on interaction. Opponents more to 6. See where they end up. They've kept on 6. So we just play our Fjord and go. We've got a lot of good draws, like basically any of our 2-drops, any of our 1-drop fairy. I think we're just gonna play to the board, play a hacker. The payoff if they don't have anything or if they only have a creature is too high. This could be Jeskai Ephemerate, it could be Affinity. Those are kind of the 2 at the top of the list. If it's Ephemerate, they've got a lot of removal spells, bolts and so on. If it's Affinity, they've got some discharges. Now that we've drawn the second hacker, unless we are to draw 2 creatures that we want to pick up, the value on the first one has gone down a lot. So they are just going to Ephemerate. So it's kind of quite a hard control matchup. Kind of tempted to run out the hacker again, but I think we're just going to play the long game now. So we've got these 2 monarch creatures that we really want to see. It could still be like a Bin Horde deck rather than hard control Ephemerate, but I don't think that's too likely. Yeah, there's these kind of Cryogen. Everyone's on a Cryogen deck. Yeah, so it is more like a Wildfire Ephemerate. I've kept up a blue-red. Maybe that means a Dispel. I'll kind of bear that in mind, but I can't put too much stock into it. I think things are going to go kind of badly for us. Then hopefully we'll drop a Lorien, and when we tap out for that, we won't get punished too heavily. Again, we kind of just want a creature, want some action. Another Lorien. Well, don't know how much the opponent will believe us in terms of us leaving a mana. Obviously, we know that there's just nothing going on. I assume this is okay. So it's a Cryogen. So maybe they're going to Hawking. Okay, so it's more a. So we're going to spread this because the 2-3 just wants a spread. We can't get through it otherwise. And I think I would be more worried about tapping out into the face of, a Murmuring Mystic from the Ephemerate deck, rather than the damage that I think the opponent's deck will do in 1 turn is relatively lower. There's all of the value they get via picking up putting down Cryogen Relics, but in one turn they're going to struggle to draw over 3 cards off of that. Yeah, we really need the help on our end, so. Okay, so the spell stutter's alright. Be better if we had another fairy to go with it, but we're also going to make sure that we play pretty quickly. As is, I don't think this turn's gone, well, not yet at least, gone too horribly. This is the relic, and are you on a Glint Hawk or are you on a Skyfish again? A Seeker, okay. So annoying we can't just drop the Admiral here. I think we're going to pass with mana up, and if they don't play anything, or if they don't play anything spell structurable, I think we're going to be in a bit of a bind. We could have just gone for a big Lorien, but I don't really want to tap out 2 turns in a row without having some interaction. So I'm just going to let these prowess triggers resolve. I think this warrants a counterspell. If there's a dispel, we'll try and sprite it. The compass is fine. I'm not going to try and sprite that. There's still like Glint Hawks and so on the menu. This could easily be a bait spell for Glint Hawk. 4 lifelink damages. Adds up. I'm kind of tempted to drop my sprite here. I don't think sprite's going to be very good in general. Just trade a card out of each of our hands. No, I think we can hold it. They're going to have so many 1-drops in their deck. I think we're safe to play our Lorien again. We are not safe to play the Lorien. No, we are safe to play it. What a roller coaster. And then, does that mean we discharge now whilst the coast is clear? I guess that it does. This guy's going to grow whatever we... don't believe they'll want to ephemerate. They might be able to bolt us. So we get to save an energy. Obviously, as these kind of modal things, you choose when it resolves, so they don't get to prowess afterwards. We kind of have our shields down. We weren't countering anything with a naked, like not protected spell stutter anyway. As far as we're concerned, they have to play Creature this turn, otherwise we're feeling pretty good with that Admiral. Even then, if we draw one of our 6 remaining removal spells, I still feel like we're pretty live. So I don't see a way they're countering our Admiral. I am the Monarch. And I think it's better to play the landscape and be able to brainstorm. I don't think our Admiral is long for the world, but he can do some work in the meantime. At least his trigger can. Maybe I should have brainstormed. If I brainstorm and find a Fairy Seer, that's pretty relevant. Wildfires for days over there. So I think I'm going to let this happen. No, I'm going to brainstorm first. It taps us out, but I think, I'm interested in counterspelling this if I get the option. Again, we thought possibly earlier they were representing a dispel, but I don't think that's too likely. And I don't actually think well, if this, we'll see what happens. Let's just heal until the end step. We'll see what happens as to whether we fetch the landscape or not. Again, I imagine they're on 12, 4 Skyfishes, 4 Glint Hawks. Oh wow. Okay, this game's just got a hell of a lot easier. So I'm not going to shuffle yet because I want to draw. I just want to make a land drop. Don't want to fall behind on mana, and don't want to. I need some cards in my hand. And I can actually pick this up with our ninja. Say let's go to declared locks. And that just gives me a way to rescue the Monarch if it gets stolen from us, which is a little bit of value. Obviously we draw a card with the ninja as well. I probably do want to shuffle away that island now though. put a stun counter on our guy. That's not going to stop it dealing damage, so I am just going to shuffle. And get a red. Get not. We've got 4 red sources. No red cards, so we do well to be tight on red sources. Okay, yes. The ideal is basically, I think, finding a fairy sir. I think I'm going to brainstorm for that. If I need to put back the to draw 2 islands again now, or 2 lands again now, I'll put them both on top and I'll scry one to the bottom. Bottom, top. And then this gives us a bit more hope in our spell status being able to counter a 1-drop. Countering a 2-drop is still very hard, but I guess the second one counters the 2-drop. So what do we think then? Yeah, then like kind of zeroing in on, you can have all of these slow, grindy Lembuses, but Monarch is pretty real. They could well have a breath weapon. That wouldn't surprise me too. You can't have nothing. Sick. The only thing that makes sense to me then is that they're just trying to either overwhelm our mana in one turn, which is still a bold play, or that they are trying to burn us out. They've got like, a couple more galvanic blasts and a couple of bolts in hand. We're not picking up the hacker because we want to be able to pick up a sprite at a later date. We sure have some sprites. So we're now spriting anything that moves onto the stack. We've had them on it for a few turns, but they're still drawn 3 more cards than us. Oh, I guess they've shuffled a few with the wildfires and so on. We'll search for a few. What else would be in your... So they've got 6 spells they're not casting. 6 spells they're not casting. I think we know like 9 more cards of their deck are these creatures. 3 more blasts. 2 more relics. That's only 14 of that. Like, there's still 20 cards not accounted for. And if 4 of those are bolts, we have, like, the effect on the game is very different. Because it goes from we're not actually under any pressure to suddenly we are under pressure. I think because of that, I'm just going to island cycle. I just want to keep making my land drops. I don't want to be in a point where I'm getting my mana's kind of being overwhelmed. Just take another island. We're like, if we're discarding, we're borderline discarding hand size. I don't want to be casting a Glorian Revealed anytime soon. I like a Fairy Seer. Fairy Seer goes pretty well. Spread's not bad. I did mean to play the Augur there, but we will Sprite. You say Sprite countering 1-drops is very comfortable. Slightly aware that we could be tapping out into a breath, or like they could set up a breath weapon here, but we'll make sure we sit on the last, let's say, Sprite. So it works out for us quite well that we didn't pay anything, because now we'd roll back up to 7. And that card is an extra land, so a land drop the next turn is kind of sorted. And do we want to Sprite this? I don't think so. There's 2 cards for them, but it doesn't affect the board. We are going to try and Sprite this. And once this resolves, they need to be able to kill 2 guys to force it through. And if they spend 2 bolts on this guy, that kind of puts us back like into very hard to be bolted out range. And then we just scrub their guy anyway, so we're not that fussed. I'm basically looking at it as they've got 12 damage worth of bolts and 9 damage worth of... Sorry, 12 damage worth of blast, 9 damage worth of bolts to try and kill us with, which is 21. So we need to stop 2 of those from connecting. Makeshift munitions is pretty real. That's medium real, but but I can't counter it now that I'm out of sprites. The Cryogen is kind of fine. We're back into, like, they can have their Cryogens and draw their deck as long as we're, you know, really picking on the targets that we think matter. And if we get to ninja back one of these sprites, that being an extra counterspell on a spell that matters is pretty real. I'm just going to play Landscape. I'm going to attack for 4, well 3 and then +1 for the ninja. I'll draw just another card. Maybe we do want to replay this Admiral at some point just as another beta. It's quite funny. So Fairies say we're going to try and set up our Augur. I'm going to auto this now. This doesn't matter, it's going to the bottom anyway. Point is we want the scratch. Maybe we bottom the mountain to find a counter spell, but it's not Spell Pierce, I'll tell you that much. Spell Pierce isn't looking too hot. Glad that's gone to the bottom. It's funny, this is a game where bolts would have, you know, we could well be firing some bolts at the opponent's face if we drew them. But they give us a Samurai to point at instead. To be honest, no, I probably do still counter the Glinthawk. We've got all these spreads though. I'll just let that go. And just spread it down. Obviously they draw 2 off of this, so it's not unreasonable to counter this. But alternatively kind of really focusing on what are the spells that are going to matter. We're already, what, 3 minutes up? 3 minutes and a bit? Assuming we're not going to manage to lose too slowly in the next game, I might be in some trouble to finish our match. So we didn't counter the last one. I think I'm going to stick to the same idea. It's getting sketchier now that they're up so many, you know, they're on so many cards. But almost once you've made a decision, it's kind of hard to come off of it. If we're back to saying that they've got 12 threats, we've got 8 spot removal spells, plus 1 we've got to account for this. So what I'm saying with that is that we're kind of getting ourselves into a bit of a bind. We've only got 1 hacker to pick up a ninja again. Let's start picking off some of their board. I think I'm happy to counter this. We're going to get 2 loots. Just let it resolve. Yeah. Well, that's not countering it in a hurry. It does mean that we have to counter the next creature because we're out of ways to force through damage. Part of me is tempted to just leave the Samurai token. See if they trade. Like, I can trade a 2/1 for a Samurai token. If they don't trade, we can play the Admiral. And then if they bolt the Admiral, they're not bolting us. So you can kind of bait them into something there. We played out all of our lands. We don't have very much to loot away to these. Don't know what we would discard. Whether we'd say no. Okay, so we're kind of setting up this trap. I think I'm happy to discard the relic here. Don't see nothing like comes to mind that they would definitely want, and then I don't think I'm going to discard here. We're at some risk of milling ourselves out. And then, this is a bit of a weird thing, but basically the intention is that by playing like this, we're incentivizing them to use one of their, as I say, we're trying to cover the bolts in their deck, the bolts and the blasts. By playing like this, hopefully we incentivize them to bolt the Admiral and not us. And I think I'm going to let this go. I don't know. I think we've gotten a bit too lax on that. Glinthawks 2, Skyfishers only 2. I'm going to sprite this because this is always a 2/2 as well. We have to deal with eventually. Wow, he's gone deep on these. So that keeps our ninjas at home. Or gets spreaded. I think that's fine. God. Gone so deep. I'm not thrilled about this anymore. I feel like we could have... I feel like we're still not doing badly. However, we could well be... We've just counted a few more things and just not, like, almost... Yes, there will be certain combinations in their hand that would have beaten us, but we would have covered, like, most of the range. Whereas now we're just kind of making it to more of a game than it needed to be. The Thraben charming this. So that's annoying because that's not even one of the bolts that we're worried about getting or worried about answering. Let's brainstorm in response, hoping to find like a discharge so that we can still kill the samurai. Let's put back Augur, hit the counterspell. No, sorry, counterspell, then Augur, so that we Augur into the counterspell. That's the way around. And we're drawing another sprite, so I think I'm going to counter this one. They might have... So we've got another counterspell on top, so I'm going to counter this. We can loot away the land. To be honest, if they have a turn of the Monarch, that's not the end of the world. We've given them so many free cards. Yeah, I don't know, it seems I've played this so weirdly. Made this so much harder than it needed to be. So now we're going to let this go. Because the secret was we didn't really care too much about it anyway. The other secret is that we were secretly on the mill plan. So 3 bolts, 3 blasts. Well, if we say we counted 2 blasts, so we're going down to 14, which is 3 blasts and 2 bolts, right? I should have not attacked with this. We knew it was like... I don't know if they blocked it, but they could have just blocked it. Yeah, 14's fine, because that's 3 bolts is 9. The first blast puts us to 1. And they need to resolve the other 2 blasts. They didn't attack. Not attacking is crazy, right? So we're going to Augur. Maybe they're on the mill plan? Are you on the mill plan? We're going to take our counterspell. Even over the discharge. We're going to scred your Dreamstalker. And then we're going to battle. Okay. Yeah, I just needed to not make that more complicated than it needs to be. I'll say there's something instructive here, which is something I've said. I say about the Jund and Affinity decks as well. There's a lot of decks that just don't have that many creatures. Where the Monarch, and they have to draw them. They could have been luckier with the sequence of cards they drew. There was a few turns where if they had a creature, would have needed to draw something good or something, but yeah, just felt like beating up an opponent didn't have enough creatures in their deck. But yeah, we definitely made that way more difficult than it needed to be. I'm going to bring in more Monarchs and more Breath Weapons. Breath Weapon can sometimes, we can kill Glint Hawk, can sometimes kill Seeker of the Way, but not reliably. That's kind of neither here nor there. I don't want the Cast into the Fire. I don't think. I don't want the Relic. I don't want the Spell Pierce. I can trim a Preordain again. I think the Breath Weapons are a bit of a liability. I think, how do we keep... I don't think we realistically do keep up on cards without the Monarch. But a 5/2, just gets bolted. It could be blue blasted. Let's look at one of these. And then, I mean, we saw some synths and some red blasts. Hard to work out quite what to cut for these, because it's the awful thing where you don't want to have the wrong blast. I don't see there being a huge difference between their red and blue. Blue counters their bolts, red counters their... Oh no. I don't think I do want more blues than reds. I might leave the reds at home. I'm really umming and ahhing about the Commodore. Hilarious that we're cutting this in this matchup, but I think it's right. Oh no, that's just straight 64. I didn't actually cut these four. Okay. Not the best sideboarding I've ever seen. Not the best keep I've ever seen either. I kind of just clicked that because I was a bit salty about making the mistake. At least it's got lands. We've left in 4 additional cards, but at least we've got our 4 lands under us. So we're not going to get punished for having the wrong, or hopefully not punished too badly for having the wrong kind of combination of lands and spells. Looks like we might be on 2 volatile forwards in this game as a start. We can spread down a Seeker of the Way. That'd be nice. I just clicked that island and then saw click this, then saw drew the island, which again, we've played better than the phase between sideboarding and now in this game. We've definitely had better plays. So now we play the island. I don't think we can say we've got away with this. Them having a relic that we would have otherwise countered is pretty bad for us. Annoying that we have to counterspell a Dreamstalker. It's been a long time since I've counterspelled a Dreamstalker. The Brainstorm Shuffle's kind of nice. I'm gonna go through their turn first. That'll help us decide what we might want with a bit more detail. Not too worried about them red blasting the Brainstorm. My worry is that we're going to use up a lot of interaction on these things that don't ultimately matter all that much. They're at 4 cards. I'm going to counterspell now and stop some being at 5. If they're messing land drops, that's got to be good for us. And then we can Brainstorm now. The Cast into the Fire still in the deck, of course it is. I think I'm gonna. I know I can just get that land. That's so mean because I was planning to cut it, but put back Moonsucker Hacker, Snow-Covered Mountain. I don't even think this is good to kill the land because we're just trading one leg. I don't want to give them the free card draw. The land does help us for kind of short-term tempo stuff, but like we're just trying to we're going to have to beat all the cards in the deck at some point. The game's not going to be over quickly, and if it's going that long, then like killing a random land doesn't matter. They're going to end the game with 1 million lands anyway. Well, the benefit on killing the land is if they continue not to draw them, and then also if it buys us time to drop a mono creature, for example. Like if this is Cryogen Relic as opposed to another creature, that's kind of best of both. It's a creature that we can kill for 1 mana. Augur is naked, or we can bolt, go to 4 cards, land, and just Lorien all the way back up. Looks like we're just playing using all our mana. Yeah, they're done here. Okay, so we didn't sideboard correctly. We played the wrong land on turn 2. So we played turn 2 wrong. Did we make a mistake on turn 3? Did we? So turn 1, okay, tap land go. I think we did okay. Turn 3 we just didn't do anything, but on our turn 3 we counterspelled Dreamstalker. I'm not going to count that as a moral victory, that's at least a moral loss. Turn 4, okay, turn 4 I'm happy with. It took us till, I don't know, you get the point, not happy with how we played. Opponent matches our luck and also rolls a 6. I don't know if these dice rolls actually mean anything. I'm going to keep this, we've got 3 lands. We're not doing anything too quickly, but we've got 3 lands, we've got quite a lot of interaction over here. And will we need it? Are you Izzet Scratch? Are you like a burn deck playing Snow Mountains for fun? Or are you, which flavour of spreading things are you? Ooh, black red. There's not really a deck that I can think of that plays black and red like basics on turn 1-2 very often. So it might be in a bit of a brew. I was going to say like black red normally would be a bit more aggressive, but then the Snowlands Scred's doesn't really fit into a burn type deck, and I think we're going to play the landscape. So we can either fetch or Lorien if they only play like a creature. Like Kitchen Imp is a very likely story. If they give us a 1-mana spell, we'll spell stutter it. I don't think this is being... I'm going to entrap with this off their swamp. Let's see what danger that gets us into. The coast is clear. I think we should be fine. Bone Shards, discard a Faithless Looting. Oh boy. So I'm not going to run out the Augur. I think we've got time to set that up. I think we're quite likely to bolt something, fetch an island cycle. Yeah, with like 8 things to set up the Augur, I think we can mostly afford to wait. This being a Kitchen Imp is a good time for us. It's I think the best card in the Madness deck, so maybe Snacker's worse for us. Snacker's definitely worse. Yeah, that's not ideal. They've got 2 lootings in the graveyard. I think I'm still just going to discharge this. I've only got 3 cards in hand. We're up on cards. We get to bank some energy, not that that would matter. And then we can get ourselves an island, and I think we can get a mountain. So we're going to be playing the Augur this turn. Yeah. Spellstutter could line up very well into this looting. We're going to be playing the Augur this turn because I think we need to use that mana. And obviously we were hoping that we drew something that would set it up. Instead, I think it's about 75% to hit, so it's not, it's not the end of the world to cast it blind, but you do always have to be, you hit a lot more time when you set them up. So the spellstutter lining up into the lootings is very good for us. It might not be like that appealing to them. They've just drawn a bunch of cards otherwise, but so this is going to bring back the Snacker, and they'll do a 1-mana thing. I think I'm going to Brainstorm. We've got a Spell Pierce that we could hit. It's only the 1, but that'd be a big game. And we miss. I think I'm just going to keep basically this hand. Put back island in the landscape because we'd always like the opportunity to shuffle first. Again, this is an acceptable turn for them to Kitchen Imp us. We can answer that kind of cleanly, we don't take any damage in the air. But alas, it is another Arms of the Vein. So we're down to 12, and I think we're spreading this stupid Snacker again. Less tempted to spread the Snacker now that there's a mountain as well, but we're going to have to do it at some point. play the landscapes. We've got Brainstorm Shuffle if we don't want the island, which we don't really have too much time for. I might, if I brainstorm, so if I brainstorm Shuffle, I don't have Sprite and Counterspell. But it would have been it's very tempting to try and find ourselves a ninja there. This swap cycle. Okay. So we're basically fetching for an island. There's a lot of lands up. They're kind of down on red sources, so they can't, if they Faithless Looting, they can't kill our Sprite, twice. So even if they bolt it, we should be able to counterspell their bolt and be kind of safe. And don't bolt it. Counterspell still covers most of what they could have. They plot a robbery. And we fetch. I guess we can brainstorm now, doesn't really matter. That's pretty big. So put back Counterspell, Island, play the island, introduce the Monarch to the game. Bit of a wild ride, but we have the Counterspell and we have the Scred. This guy kind of, gets into some chunks of damage. So they're going to cast their Highway Robbery, which is going to bring back a Snacker. Do we counter that? I think I let this go now. The point is the robbery is actually +1 card, whereas this is only +2. They'd be able to discard this to, discard meaningful cards to other things. And we might well be, and we've got to remember that there is a Highway Robbery still in exile. I think I'm going to counterspell this. 5/2 is, still relevant. We go down to 9. We have to leave our stupid Snacker at home. Sorry, our Sprite at home to look at the Snacker. Oh, the mountain's pretty bad for us. I didn't even consider that they might have another land off of this. Another Fiery Templar? I was really hoping that they'd be casting this next turn when I untapped. I've got another Fiery Templar for this, that's really bad. Oh man. Well, we do have the Monarch, which could do some work. The Super Monarch. How do we attack? I want to leave this home to try and block here. If we play the Admiral, we can't Scred and Counterspell. I think I want to play the Admiral. Again, if they're bolting that, they're not bolting us. That Highway Robbery there, the fact that they got their, net +2 cards of it. Epical resolves. Downside is this one, let's say Kitchen Imp come through. And as we've discussed, Kitchen Imp is the best card in their deck. So it looks like we're setting up to try and Scred the Kitchen Imp, block the Snacker. And if they have another draw spell, they get the Snacker immediately. If they have 3 bolts, we die. I don't think we're too likely to die on the spot. Especially if they've only got 2 cards in hand for their 3 bolts. This is seeming like it's actually going okay. We block here. And we Scred here. Keep them from the Monarch. Hands off our crown. And even grab the prize into a madness thing doesn't kill us on the spot. It's not good for us. It's definitely not good for us. That's good for us. So they're out of Faithless Lootings. This isn't getting through anytime soon. We've got their first spell covered. And it doesn't really matter what we do with these. Because that's all going to be in our hand by the time we take another game action. So hopefully we can counter things to keep the snackers out of here. I'm going to let this go and just discharge it. Which charge? Discharge. So we're back to not necessarily winning the quickest. If they are able, a turn where they keep just playing, draw a spell, play a spell, it's kind of okay for us. Epicure, it's kind of crazy. I want to counterspell this. We could cast into the fire, take both their guys. This puts us to 7, which is not 6, but the blood token gives them a madness. We've got quite a lot of spells that are still to draw to. I don't love this decision, but I think it's a fair one. I think the fact that, the game is going to go on a couple of turns, they've got the high likelihood of drawing any madness thing where the blood token just is a redraw. Very happy to draw the sprite now. That covers the next Epicure. I'd sprite the Epicure every day of the week, but can't necessarily be counterspelling that liberally. Now we get to attack, pick up our guy and replay it. This does mean we can't pick up our sprite, but we even get to set up our auger, so that's all going well. I kind of want the Moonsucker Hacker. I really don't want the Spell Pierce. The Spell Pierce doesn't do anything for us. Well, that's been put to the bottom anyway. I'll keep the Spell Pierce. A random card is, you can brainstorm it away. It would have been nice to. Funny when you set something up and you're like, oh, it's the worst. I know it's going to be there. So we're going to sprite this. They only have one card, so they can't, even though we've only got 2 fairies, they can't actually, well, maybe if it's a Lavadar, but I don't think it's going to be a Lavadar. They can't knock us off that. Then we're going to get to pick up our Spellstutter Sprite again, and that's how we tend to close out games against the red decks. It's very safe first for the hacker, bottom, top. We keep the. No, I'll attack with the auger. If they don't choose to block our hacker, we can cast into the fire their guy down. It's not the end of the world. We do trade, which I think is fair. We pick up our counterspell, draw our brainstorm, and I guess we can brainstorm now. To put back these 2, play a fairy serum, put the stupid. Go away. Keep that one. I'm going to scroll it to the bottom, and then I'm even going to shuffle it. I really don't want it there. I didn't actually shuffle. If I'd done it then, I'd have been able to keep up 2 counter spells, which is better than not, but oh well. So it was a bit touch and go in places. What do we mean by places? There was the spot where they fiery tempered our Commodore. If they'd have had a bunch of more action at that point, they'd have been in trouble. But we kind of they had one kitchen imp. I think there was a turn where we got to block the kitchen imp and the snacker, keep them off the monarch, and then they fiery tempered a random guy. If they'd have fiery tempered our flyer, for example, been sharing the monarch back and forth, I think we could have been in a bit more trouble. So, kind of tempted in Breath Weapon, tempted in Relics. I want all my blue blasts. That's the relic that I want. Don't know if I'm moving it around. I don't want the Spell Pierce. I think the game's going quite late. I'm not a big Spell Pierce believer. The Preordain is fine. I think I can probably trim the Admiral that gets, because this gets red blasted, which is a bit of a liability. And kind of like trimming counterspell because it's so clunky. Like, yeah, unfortunately, clunky is the right word. Like, Blue Blast is just so much better than counterspell. Let's trim a preordain. I'm going to keep the Fairy Seers around. Again, because actually countering things with spell stutter is so important. I think I'm going to have one more relic. I don't want too many. 3 is too many. Then if I cut 2 counterspells, it's weird having this many discharges and so on. Because I don't have that many creatures. But it's important to kill the creatures when they do turn up. I've basically got 6 removal spells for their 4 creatures, and then being able to occasionally kill a snacker. I might have the spell. Again, these kind of final decisions don't really matter too much today. I'm going to keep the Spell Pierce on the draw. On the play, I'll get rid of it again. Randomly, we're actually fairies this time. We're not often fairies, but it is nice when we are. We'll have to see how the game plays out. It's one of those we could, be fairy searing into pick it up with the Moonsucker, Hacker, live the dream. I think more likely we're going to fairy sear it into Augural Bolus. They'll kill our fairy, but I'll have a 4th land. I don't think I want a 5th land. And then we'll bear in mind, I guess at least we've removed one of the cards that our Augur would have seen. See if this, they've not bolted it yet. If it stays around, we'll pick it up with Hacker. If not, we can also consider holding out Counterspell next turn. Be amazed if their turn 2 they don't do anything. And if we Counterspelled next turn, that would give us turn 3 to set up Augur with Fairy Seer. So that's kind of our order of preferences. So this looks like there is going to be a Madness spell coming our way. Again, hopefully it's not a Kitchen Imp. What Kitchen Imp Snacker is the worst discard for us. If the Snacker hits the bin, I think we have to think quite hard about holding up Counterspell regardless, even if we do get to keep our Fairy Seer and they attack for 2 in the air. Kitchen Imp Bone Shards. That's not as bad. So we're going to probably Hacker pick up Fairy Seer before playing our land. Maybe they stay home. Love it if they stay home. They stay home. So we're gonna hold up Counterspell. Again, if they have an untapped red source, very likely we are running into a Red Blast. But it's a weird one. Obviously with our hand, it pays them off for staying home. But it also, it just goes to show how hard the games are. Like, the fact that we now get to leave up Counterspell, as opposed to them doing something, doing the best thing available in their turn. So this is kind of a sign they're trying to play around it. But do I just Counterspell this anyway? God, this is brave, because you've seen Sprite. Sprite would be so good here. I think I'm going to let that go. I really hate our Fairy Seer. Just because they're down 3 cards already, and it's keeping this at home. This is basically counterspelling a shock. Like, counterspell a shock and keep our guy on play. I'm interested in that. Oh, another counterspell is live. So let's play a Fairy Seer to set up Augur. Brainstorm and counterspell. We kept all 4 counterspells, we cut them things. They've only got 2 cards, so I kind of think that we just want to hold up Counterspell again. So let's go top, play an island, pass back. So again, they do have another red source now. They could, play a spell, grab the prize and red blast our counter, but that's fine. Down to 2 cards in hand. They're down to 0 cards in hand. I think the opponents, I don't know. I think the bone shards are quite. I wouldn't keep. I wouldn't keep the bone shards in the deck in this matchup. So we now hit our brainstorm, right? That stupid spell pierce. Again, we've still got the counter spell available. I just need to get rid. Every time I play the game, like every time I record a video, I go on about how I hate spell pierce so much. But I think it's just that thing of having it in the deck. You know, the opponent has to think about, has to potentially play around. And there's definitely spots where it's good. It's bailed me out a few times. It's never been that bad for me. You know, it's one of those, whenever you draw it, this could always be a land, and that wouldn't do anything either. Okay, so we're taking 2. They're finally deciding that they can't stay home. I don't think I tap out a counterspell to brainstorm. I just don't need to at that point. Let's see what we draw. We'll ninja back a fairy set. We just don't have the mana available to ninja back an augur and replay it. That's a nice draw. If we don't hit a land, probably won't replay the fairy set this turn. What a sicko. So we have to counter that. So there goes our dream of holding up counterspell. So the untapped land, so like, you know, if they drew grab the prize sneaky snacker, they'd be back, you know, pretty much back in the game. Having the untapped land so we can cover that off or fetch another island is a big game. Don't imagine they attack anymore when they might want to be trading. Maybe they attack and bolt this, but either of those options are kind of fine. We flash back the looting, get out of the graveyard. They've seen the relic. Like, we could have thought about cracking the relic, but getting another island in play seemed quite valuable. I probably overvalued that because we're caught up on blue sources in previous turns. We don't have the double blue counterspell anymore, so it's actually a bit easier. And now they don't need to necessarily keep this at home to block our hacker. They do to block our fairy 6. We will get us out of an island. So we can brainstorm fairy seer, put some stuff to the bottom, or we can just tap out for Lorien. I think just playing Lorien must have not got a red blast. So we've got to relic, but there's so many cards in the graveyard that we've kind of fallen behind. If they've got to grab the price snacker, now is a good time for it. Doesn't have to be grab the prize, this works too. They sacrifice our land instead. Yeah, I think this is. I think they cast a bone shards in game 1 as well. So they do get grab the prize off. It's not the best grab the prize I've ever seen. I'm better with Fiery Temper. I'm happier with them having Fiery Temper than I am with them having a snacker, even with the relic. So we can do it in the future. So we can brainstorm. Holy moly. Put back a square and a landscape. Discharge this. No, that was all the way around. No. Scratch this. Fairies here. Let's bottom both of these. We attack for 3. And see if we find a counter or a sprite. Get out of here, snow-covered mountain. I feel like we've done an okay job to the opponent seeming like we've always had it. Reveal their hand in the top card of their library. And I get rid of that. Okay. You can have my brainstorm. It's a good brainstorm. Choosing anything that's not a card in the hand is like such a beating on this, right? They take the scratch. That's interesting. I guess, yeah, an epicure or any like creature is good. Maybe they cut. I don't know. Maybe you could cut snackers in this match because it's so hard to actually grab the prizes. I think I'm going to brainstorm. Just not so much about the end step, just to. Oh, buddy. So we're not looting. I mean, there's ways this goes wrong. I mean, let it resolve. We can always counter the back end of it. We'll counter some other sicko madness tech card. Another psychotic haze. The counter spells have been very good this game. And I think we'll probably be cracking the relic. Gets the faithless looting and the snacker. I was excited about that hydroblast again then. That was funny. I knew that was there. Do we auger blind? I think so, rather than keep it. The other thing is just enable you to loot. I probably should have looted first. Because you can loot, and then if you don't hit something good, you can always discard the auger. There's things that are better than a brainstorm. Fairy Seer is not one of them. Don't think we need the Fairy Seer. A third psychotic haze would be a bit annoying. I think I just. So this is lethal currently. If I counter this, if they flash it back, then they need to. Whatever they draw, we counter. Whatever they madness off of it. They should be tapping themselves out to resolve whatever they. Or to cast whatever they want to madness. There's nothing going on. That's less than nothing going on. It's tragic to get a swamp here. Cool. Well, that's 2-0. Is it 2020? I have to check on the other screen, but yeah, I mean, the games have seemed pretty clear. This is, I think this deck's pretty good. It kind of covers. I think it seems good. It covers all the bases pretty well. I think both matches seemed fairly convincing to me. So, right, on to the next. We're back for round 3 against Entropete again. We played him quite recently when he was on High Tide, so also a big BlackSac guy. I think we're going to keep this. Hand's not amazing, but it's pretty good. I don't think we can afford to mulligan. And if we lose, oh well. Print more to 6. So confirmed BlackSac now. The relic's actually live thanks to, if there's a supernatural stamina in our future. The one I've cast into fire is kind of relevant. The other thing is getting down at least the relic or the ford. So things to consider are what if they have a glee, or what if they have a payoff creature. Casting the Fire is not very good against their payoff creatures. I think I kind of want to play Island Relic. That's kind of weird. The problem with that is that if they've not got exactly stamina, then the relic doesn't really do anything for us. Maybe just maybe Landscape Pass. You can always fetch another red. Yeah, I kind of like that. It's a weird spot. Scred's not amazing right now, but it could be good. So we're just taking 2. And so we kind of blow this out, but if they have a stamina, they blow us out in return. Do we have to react to this, though? So knowing their list, they don't play that many ways to sacrifice creature. So I'm going to let this resolve. I'm just going to go nuts. I'm going to brainstorm. Probably put back these 2. We'll fetch a mountain. Play an island. play a relic, and pass back. So we cover the stamina bringing back a guy, but they'd still get 3 counters, which is pretty good. But obviously we've got the counter spell up as well, and until they have a way to make a creature die, the Glee isn't doing much. I think I should have just bolted with Scred up, or Scredded with counter spell up. I think we got a bit too cute. We could Scred now with the relic activation, but at this point we go to our next turn and cast into the fire now. I guess if we're doing it now, we do it in their upkeep. There's just fewer things go wrong. We don't take a big attack that turn. So I'm thinking that we're going to let them make 3 squirrels. Because if I counter this and then they have another one, that could be awkward. And then we're going to relic to stop this shambler. But the point being that they'll have 3 squirrels, but our Scred covers quite a few of their sacrifice guys. So our position's not great, seeing as their hand wasn't great. I don't think I want to play a Lorien, but I do want to use some of my mana, so I'll just play a hacker. This kind of keeps a guy at home. Glee there I think is fine. Again, we've got Screds and so on, we don't have to be as worried with various effects for that. I'll take 4. Why wouldn't I just Scred this now? Maybe take 3. Seeing as I've got a counter spell for like a feed or that type of effect. They might have a snuff out, but obviously that's not enough. 5 is a lot more than 2. I think I counter this. I think it's likely they have a snuff out. If they don't, like getting to ninjutsu is pretty strong. Yeah, okay. So I guess I'll play the landscape and draw 3. Brainstorm and some air. So we'll put a stop in our upkeep because we can shuffle away, for example, the 2 islands. I feel like we should be able to close out the game from here. Bloodthrone will be quite the clock. And then there's always the risk of them just drawing like a right or something. That helps a lot. I'm going to put back Ford and an island. Go to our upkeep. Fetch, I think I get another mountain, since we have the other island in hand. Can kind of brainstorm then Fairy Seer. Discharge is quite funny. I don't want the Spell Pierce, so I'll scry that to the bottom. And I don't think we want the Lorien. Bottom. I think I discharge now, because they have to sacrifice 2 creatures if they want to keep their guy, and then we just don't put any energy into this. Well, energy, the mechanic, not energy absorbing the thing. They've not sacrificed anything, so we will kill their guy. And then pass back to their turn. So we've got the sprite which covers basically everything but snuff out in their deck. And then we kind of need an augur just to come up the ground of it. But again, I think we should be able to close out the game from here. Especially if we can sprite pick up with the hacker. Just that 2 for 1 is very tasty. So they don't play anything. We can brainstorm. The augur is currently missing, but at least we can use it to lose the island. So put back the island and a sprite. Draw a sprite. Trying to work out whether it's worth. We could draw the island off the augur, but I'd rather just lose the island and get a fresh draw with the hacker. And we hit. Draw a card. Annoyingly, that island would actually be handy, so we had 2 sprites up. As is, we have 1 sprite at the discharge. I'm going to keep the Ford now, because we've got so many lands. So we're going to block.
I think I agree with them that they just need to cheese us out, basically. So we can Lorien and basically tap out, which I don't actually hate. And not tap out, but spend a lot of mana. And then we can attack with our hacker. Kind of want to find another untapped land. I really messed up by having the mountain untapped. I think I'm going to lose the Preordain. We don't need Preordain at this point. The untapped island is great. Snap off a sprite on this. Likewise, we'll be spriting basically whatever this next thing is. I even don't really mind trading a hacker for a squirrel at this point. I just want to get rid of their board a bit. It's funny that they agree. I think that's a sign of somebody who understands kind of, I don't know, we've both played the BlackSac deck a lot, and we've got a similar understanding on, what their avenue to win there is. The extra sprite coming back was a big game. So we've got Breath Weapon, which isn't amazing because we have to be able to pick off the growing creatures as well. But it gets a lot better with our 8 kind of 1-mana interaction pieces. Spell Pierce, so that we can actually interact as we need to. I don't want the Monarch in this matchup. They've got so many shitters. Keep the cast into the fire. The Spell Pierce is tricky because their deck is so, there's not many lands and it's so low to the ground. I think this is fine. So let's look at these two. Do we want another relic? So I think they run a couple of unearths and the staminas. Stamina doesn't. So this doesn't work too well against stamina on what's it called, Shambler, but it does work if you're stopping like an Accursed Marauder or a Mesmeric Fiend much better. What else would we cut? I think that's kind of the problem is I wouldn't really want to cut any of the other bits. Maybe we could cut a Fairy Seer. But like getting a guy through, getting a counterspell through, they're going to have some snuff outs, they're going to have more of those effects, more removal. I think I'm good with this as the sideboard. Feels bad to drink push. So wait, Pete's getting a, I assume they're called Pete. He's getting a shout out, or they're getting a shout out in my BlackSac video that will be next to post. I don't think I can keep this hand against Mulch 7. It's got one piece of interaction, but like none of the other cards do anything. So it's kind of a tight mulligan. But I think there's better 6s. But we are on the draw. I think this is a better 6. Kind of tempted to put back the relic. Kind of tempted to keep the relic. Guess counterspell on turn 3 isn't really where it's at. Like, counterspell is pretty good in this matchup, but turn 3 just is a bit too slow. I'm going to lead on Mountain, more so to discharge, and then the idea is that, I don't want to, whilst dropping the relic on turn 1's okay, we've only got red spells, so we can only play one spell a turn at the minute. We might as well use that spell a turn on things better than, it's better to play the relic off of an island that doesn't cast anything else than get ourselves in trouble and not be able to cast any spells. I've seen this both games, that's kind of funny. What hand are you keeping that's got nothing on turn 2 into a mountain? It's like one Carrion Feeder or like one Bloodthrone Vampire. I mean, I'll discharge a Bloodthrone Vampire. I'll discharge most things. Not another crapper, but. So, if we discharge this, they have to sack 2 things. Or they just take we kill that vampire. I'm good with trading discharge for a whole Link Breaker and no, benefits to them. And actually, if they double sack, we bank all the energy. This lines up pretty well for us, not gonna lie. So we really want like a counterspell or something here to cover their, as a way to cover their carrion feeders and so on that could otherwise outgrow our things. But again, now that we're banking energy on that, that's pretty live. We've got the relic to stop a stamina. Stamina on this guy, relic's much better at that than it is against the Shambler. It's just another thing for them to think about. That's crazy talk. I don't understand this, how this goes. So any of our red spells break this up, right? Because we can stop the stamina. They could stamina their carrion feeder, but that still fizzles this. So do we want to scred this or discharge it? I think we're going to discharge. This is safest in that we already have 2 energy in the bank. I'm glad we mulliganed. So this is just 1 again. We'll make sure we exile this so we don't get unearthed on. And then the Glee can go to the graveyard. Counterspell's a very nice draw at that point. Just play another island and pass back. So we're breaking up their kind of the synergy part of their deck. We got a 2 for 1, and I think our deck is, we've got Lorien build in our deck. If a game goes very long, I think we should be favoured. But we're not, speak the devil. We've not kind of turned the corner. Yeah. If I tap out for Lorien, I think we get ourselves in some trouble. One of those, whatever we draw, if it's a land, it means we can at least hold up scred. If it's a spell, we don't have to play Lorien, so I think it is kind of tempting to have found another red source now that we just sat on the 1. But assuming they have something good, if we tap out and they get an explosive turn, then we could be in a bit of trouble. I'm going to let this go. Maybe that's wrong. This being wrong just in terms of if all of their cards are supernatural staminas, that could be trouble still. But we can afford to take 2 for quite a while. And again, an augur blocking this with the relic active is pretty good for us. I quite like Brainstorm, but put back Brainstorm. I don't really want to put back the Lorien. So I don't really want to shuffle away a Lorien, but because that means that I should have shuffled it last turn. Now that we've got the Brainstorm, maybe we don't need to. Just going to get an island, play the island, and then yeah, I am going to Brainstorm again in our turn. We're essentially holding up our whole hand anyway. And then put back Moon Circuit, then Fairy Seer, so we'll play the Fairy Seer next turn. We could have played the Fairy Seer out. Maybe we should have. Because we do, they add up. They all count. Yeah, I think I should have played. Oh god. Do I have to counterspell this? Because we know we're not getting any help in our next turn. Let's go bottom top. We'll take 2 again. We do always have the card in the relic if we were to need it. No tragic slip our guy. I think that's okay. Obviously we can't actually do anything about it. Kind of tempted to kill a Link Breaker. Just get it off the board. Does mean we'd have to kill it twice. Oh, it's so gross. We're drawing this stupid 2-1 that doesn't do anything. It's just got Shamblers all the way down. Oh, I hate it. I hate it so much. I think I've got to play the Hacker now. God. obviously we don't know what's in the hand. I'm assuming there's a load of removal spells, and the coast was clear to Lorient. We ended up shuffling away those and just, this is why the augurs are still pretty decent, even though they're, not incredible. Can I just trade with a Shambler? Because if we incite them to try and blink first, it's terrible that we're seriously considering blocking. Just blocking because Shambler's scary. Yeah, I don't think there's any world that they use a stamina into all of our open mana. And the hits just keep on coming. So I'm kind of thinking I need to set up to draw a what's it called, breath weapon at this point. I think I'm going to discharge the link breaker because I want the board closer to clear when I do, and I don't want to commit myself to using 2 spells on the Shambler. So we'll just pick that off as well. Synth Fae is basically breath weapon, so that's okay. We can kill these 2. Do we just take these 2 now? I think I want to leave the mercenary token because they might just not attack with it. They do attack with it. I think the time might have come to play the nested Shambler lottery because we're going to have to deal with it, or deal with its tokens at some point. And I guess we're doing that. We take out the Sage as well to set up our breath weapon that we've got 2 of and a Dream. So they stamina their Shambler. I'm going to let that resolve. Triggers. I don't want their Shambler coming back, so I'm going to draw a card. And obviously, from opponent's point of view, if we do hit this breath weapon, it's going to look like we had it all along. That's not a breath weapon. We're going down to 4, which would put us dead on board. We kill a guy. We go down to 5 and have 1 out. Like we kill a guy and go to 1. Yeesh. Augur decides to show up now. They snuff out our Augur. We do hit our breath weapon. Okay. There's no point in waiting. Yeah. I feel like we got ourselves into trouble and then kind of, we've seen a lot of cards over the course of this game, but obviously that was a very good draw at a key time. And this one is also live. Even if it bricks, it's still ninja food. It still holds back a lot of, like, an army of shitters. Yeah, that's so sick. Yeah. Wow, and that hits. Okay. So I think we should be able to close out from here. They have drawn like 7 of their 17 lands, 18 lands. It's such a weird game. Like, if their hand was all removal spells, I know that their deck, is going to board in the Tragic Slips. They've got a couple of Snuff Outs main. If the hand is all removal spells, then it makes sense to just slam the Lorient, draw 3, and just be fine. Whereas the kind of line that we took was, if they'd been slowly rolling out payoff creatures, the line that we took would have been better. If we had Lorient and then they just like slammed everything on the board, it all grew massively. We could have been in trouble. But by kind of trying to cover, this is the kind of difficulty right on these kind of decks. By trying to cover the worst case scenarios and be patient, you can just make the almost comfortable scenarios like a lot scarier. So, but we are 3-0, which is all good.
Right, so we are back. We are 3-0, hoping to ram this out into a trophy. can't keep this. We've got some interaction, but obviously no land, no blue mana source. And we're going to keep this. This is a fairy hand. So we're going to get to do our fairy thing. And choice on what we put back. If our fairy seer dies, I'd like to put back a hacker. Then we can set up augur. So I think we're going to put back a hacker. This kind of covers worst case. So this is a day after I just played, Entropete. So we Dream Crushed a 4 in our last round. Can we do it again? So I want both of these. The sequencing's a bit tricky. Is it? What I'm getting at is that I'd like to have access to the mountain, but then committing to 3 mana next turn is a bit. No, committing to attack my next turn is a bit tricky. I think I can go top and draw the mountain first. Then again, we've at minimum got this. We've got the option of holding up Scred, and then turn 3 we can either do we can do the opposite of that. Urza's stuff. And this works, and I missed this actually, this works really well, so we can hacker, pick up Fairy Seer, and then either replay Fairy Seer or play the Volatile Forward. Which I might be playing the Forward, to be fair. No, I think I just replay the Seer, don't I? It lines up to do that, but like if I find a counter spell or something else I'm interested in. We could go top and lock it in with the Brainstorm. I think I'm going to bottom top, and I can always put the script back with the Brainstorm to make sure we hit with the Augur. Right, I need to not play so slowly. There's a risk we're going to just time out. They have natural, well not natural, they have turn 3 Tron, so they're going to get to do their thing. Expedition map, I figure this is less likely to be like a blue Tron, it's more likely to be Ultratron type stuff going on. Let us Brainstorm first. I like the counterspell. If I put back Scred, then Brainstorm, I can play the Volatile Forward, and then next turn I can Augur into the other. I know, because and then I just have to say no to loot. Awkward stuff, isn't it? I guess we're just Auguring this turn. So let's put back Scred and a tap land. We're putting back the Scred so that if we don't want it, we're not forced to take Scred. Well, good timing on that. Then we'll attack. I am going to loot away the Scred, and the Spite is a nice one to find. So, I got to do some damage this turn. So I think the most likely things are like Ultratron. Yeah, okay. Use Ultratron. So they've got their 2 Mirror Retrievers. We need to fight over Alter and the second. They get a Mere Kinsmith again. That's quite cool. I hadn't really thought about that. If we attack and they just block, pick up a map, they can kind of make their next land drop, but we could Sprite that. It does tap us out. I really want to find an Augur. Sorry, not an Augur, a Relic. I think I'm just going to keep their Mere Retriever sat where it is. I don't want them getting just having an insane mana advantage if I can avoid it. So if we counterspell this, we can't kind of let them have put a Mere Retriever in the graveyard for the rest of for the foreseeable. But I think we have to. Okay, so they had to. So they can make infinite Mere Retrievers, but they don't I was going to say they don't currently have a Golem Foundry in play. I think we want to Brainstorm. Spell Pierce isn't up to much. Discharge isn't up to much either. and then we can only sprite a 2/2. Which means we can sprite a Mirror Retriever to break up a combo. Then we just poke for one in the air again. So they have, it's a Mirror Kinsmith they have in hand rather than a actual factual Mirror Retriever. Obviously it can turn into one, but that's -2 mana. What that's worth. We can't fight over a what's it called? Do we counter this Rumble? I think we do. Obviously it sees 4 cards, it mills cards, which is good for them. We also want to increase our clock and increase our spell status count. Obviously if they've drawn the Foundry, that's still good for them. Get back a star, so they're just cycling to draw a card. Well, we're hoping they're just cycling to draw a card. Black mana, this insight, Rakdos. They've got their kill condition. We don't have enough energy. And we are dead. So this gets a Mirror Retriever. They sack this, yeah, okay. If the Rumble hadn't found the hit, I don't know. We could counter a Rumble that would see 4 cards to try and find this, or we could try and interact with this. I think I'm happy with how we played that. So I want my relics. I think I want my Commodore. I don't think I want my breath weapons. And then we just have a quick look at some of this to see whether we want any blue blasts. So it's quite likely they have some blue spells. So let's bring in, some red spells. Let's look at like these 6 to bring in. I don't want to have too many blue blasts, so it's around 3 maximum. And get rid of my spell pierce against the Tron deck. That's kind of asking for trouble. The discharges don't really break up anything that we're, needing 2 to kill a terror. None of the other creatures don't really matter. And are any of our other spells worse than or better than a Hydroblast? Things obviously I don't want to cut a counter spell. Scred's not amazing, but it does kill Pactol. Maybe 3 Screds is fine. Obviously we'd rather stop them from resolving it. We've got 4 removal spells for it. I think I'm good with this. So I've not played against Ultratron. I think maybe I want the Scred over the Hydroblast. We can keep this off the back of getting an island. So I've not played Ultratron before with this deck. I don't think it seems that bad a matchup. I'm going to say that I think we had a decent shot for most of that game. I don't know if that's a fair statement or not. I think they drew fairly well for themselves. So we can Fairy Seer or Brainstorm to set up the Augur. Can't do both. Getting Fairy Seer down is better if we're gonna draw into a sprite. I guess we could always Fairy Seer and sprite next turn, so let's just be mana efficient. I'm gonna blind Augur and we rip it. The idea is we don't have that many ways of using the red pip, but our blue mana pips are pretty precious. And I think we hold up Counterspell. I'm not really expecting we are going to Counterspell anything. But if they have the natural Tron, we can interact. And then I quite like the idea of being able to Brainstorm. Again, we've got these 3 relics. They're probably going to have some Ancient Grudges, which is a good reason to have the have our blue blasts, Hydroblasts. So this dies. I think that's okay. Obviously this turns their Mirror Retriever, gives it a target, but again, we're as much trying to hold up mana to position so that they don't play anything too scary. I really want to resolve, I really want to cast a Brainstorm, I really want to find a 3rd blue source. And a Relic, that's a really good Brainstorm. I've not got a way to shuffle, so I'm going to put back the Commodore for a while. And one of the counterspells we're just going to draw. So we can play our Relic, can tap and exile a card. So now we can kind of attack for free. Like, they could put the star in the graveyard. That's a lot better for us than them putting a Candy Trail back. And obviously we could always crack the relic. And then, do I just drop a fairies here? I can kind of put something else on top of the Commodore. So, do I want a Commodore? I don't think I want it yet. I'll keep it installed. Then we will pass with either Counterspell or Relic. Unfortunately, it's not both. Trigger Pylons. They just put a card in the graveyard, which is important about stopping a turn of Relic activation. Kind of doing a bit of a job of filling the graveyard up. Play an Ashnod's Altar. I think I'm going to let that resolve. I think I'm just going to make this a fight about Mirror Retrievers. I think that's part of the lesson from last game, is just really zeroing on Mirror Retrievers being their thing that matters most. Then we can attack for 2 here. I could have preordained first, but I can brainstorm as well. Again, not much value for them in blocking, because they can always put it in the graveyard with the altar. I think I want to fight over explicitly Mirror Retriever, not waste 5 Mirror Retriever. And so that's the plan. Let's see if they turn into the beatdown plan. We are taking 1 for our trouble. I could brainstorm into something, but there's nothing I think I'll really go for. So let's brainstorm end of turn. Don't think we particularly have strong feelings over these. I'll keep the land, another island. So we could shuffle one of these cards away. Maybe we don't want 2 Hydroblasts. Though if they've got an Ancient, if they actually do have an Ancient Grudge. So let's lose the Scred, put back a Hydroblast to draw, go to our turn, play the landscape. I think we are going to block with our Augur. If we're doing that, are we pondering into are we keeping the what's it called, Scred? We should have maybe preordained into it. So I'm just going to get rid of a card now. I guess if they have a Mirror Retriever, they can pick this up. So I kind of want to counter this. The map is as relevant as another thing to put into the graveyard, as far as I see. Is this a Fangren? He's a big boy. But we do have access to a Scred. They gain 5. We are not killing them in a hurry anymore. And we can't shuffle because we want this Scred. But I think once we get rid of 3 Mirror Retrievers, we're kind of sorted. So fetch, get an island. We care, I think, a lot more about blue sources than red. And if I preordain, I can't counterspell, and I can't Scred their guy. I want to Scred their guy, it's 5 damage. That's meaningful. And I'm going to hit a lag spike, which is annoying. My internet quality is not very good up here. Right, so our Scred has resolved, and I think we're going to attack for 1. Because we don't really, again, having a second fairy in play means the spell set is much more live than it would be without. So what's it called? Ancient Grudge is very good for them. We would get to snag one of their Mirror Retrievers out of the graveyard in response, but I think I'm going to Lorry and then preordain. Because I'm going to bottom the island off the preordain. If we saw one. Maybe we're in the business of blocking mere kinsmiths now. Obviously, they could always sacrifice a mere retriever to bring it back, but we've got the counterspell to cover that. Kind of the counterspell being a cover for this mere retriever, for the extra mere means blocking, and the fact we're another turn on, another 3 damage taken, means the blocking is more appealing. What's this one going to be? Don't want this to be a Pact or Terror very badly, very much. I'd really rather it wasn't. I think we have to counter a Pactol. So, no Ancient Grudges. They do get a Blood Fountain, which is pretty annoying. Pretty good for them. And this means that they can kind of force us to crack our relic on demand. That's problematic. I feel like it's getting away from us. We kind of really need another relic to put them back into a bind. Brainstorm's gonna help us turn our hand around in a hurry. The spell set is nice. I'm going to put back the 2 blasts. We've not found a use for them yet. Play the landscape so that we can shuffle and brainstorm again if we need to. And then we've got us another spell set to cover a mere retriever. No point tapping on it now, I don't think. So they drew a candy trail off the top. I kind of think I can counter this because I don't want to just let them chain a load of Golden Foundries together. Again, I think we are looking at having to mere retriever. Sorry, looking at having to relic a Blood Fountain activation. Yeah, you can have a mere retriever. You can counter the mere retriever side. And we've got 2 blue blasts on top, which I don't think we want. Then we'll get ourselves a mountain, mostly to shuffle. See what we draw. Fairy Seer, let's brainstorm first, because we can always Fairy Seer to put back some cards. And we'll put back Volatile Forward, Fairy Seer. We can attack for 2, because I don't mind taking 3 off of this once. No, let's just attack for... yeah, because I want to have 2 fairies. Next turn. I know we've got Fairy Seal on top. I should have left this back. We can block with the other Fairy Seal. Pick up our Sprite, so we have another counterspell in hand. Yes. Fairy Seal will bottom our Volatile Forward that we didn't want. Love a Sprite. Tap Relic you. And then we'll put another Relic on the stack. So we can only crack one of these relics. But that puts them at the point where they're having to manage their graveyard again, like refill it kind of. So this gives them a 3/3. I think we just counter this as well. We need to basically make ourselves a clock. And then we're going to draw a card off of the relic, quite likely. So tap, exile a card. We need a plan to deal with a 3/3, which we don't currently have, but we do get in for 3 a turn. So we can block the Kinsmith. And then they're, at best putting a charge counter on this every turn, which is a few turns away from doing a thing. I think we carry on just not being patient, not cracking. The advantage for them is that we're keeping, we've got 2 cards banked up in relics that we're not using. But apart from Fangren, with everything else we've seen in their deck currently gets spell-stuttered. As we said, we're countering these now because if they chain together a few things and can make more 3/3s, that's going to be a problem for us. I'm going to turn off auto yields now because I don't want to get cheesed by a auto yielded Blood Fountain activation. So we're going down to 6, they're going to 12. If it gets desperate, we can either start leaving Fairy Seers at home to chump block, or we can afford to, like... No, we can't really afford to crack the first relic. We can crack the first relic when they Blood Fountain. We can crack the other one to stop them drawing anything, but then we don't have our Blood Fountain protection. I think I'd rather just keep a Fairy Seer at home. But before that, we get to take another 3. We've got a lot of initiative creatures, for example, as things that can block that. Opponent has not found... Oh, that's so good. I'm going to counter the front end of this. In fact, it's 2 spells. So much more likely to turn on the Golem Foundry. You're going to have 3 cards. We're doing it now so they can't draw a red spell, like a red blast, and stop our sprite from resolving. Breath Weapon's hilarious. They have 3 cards. One's a Prophetic Prism, that's a charge counter. Number 2 is a Mere Retriever. That's live. So this puts us to the point where we can't afford to use relics without giving away at least some value for the opponent. And then the third one, the Swamp, where they drew a card in between. Fairy Seer is not great. We're no longer at the point where we're super excited about Fairy Seers. They're going to have 2 Golem Foundries to work with. It would have been great if they'd have drawn a land earlier, if we'd had an extra turn in that. We draw a 3rd relic. I think I'm going to top that just because I can cycle it and deal with some of this situation. And then I'm probably going to triple block. We've got triple block one of these stupid golems. We've got 3 hackers left in the deck, so we've got a decent shot at picking up a sprite. So we're just going to block with all our Fairy Seers on one of them. Go to 3, so we have to chump the other one the next turn. But Packdoll is problematic. Whether this is the card they draw, the last card last turn, or if it's another Insight, it's pretty sick. Okay, it looks like they're bricked. Let's go Island Relic. I forgot to tap a few of these, but it shouldn't really matter. Mountain, Cracker Relic. I think we're basically blowing... If they lose the Mere Retriever, we have to blow through all of these. They let that go. We can cast into the fire this guy. So let's attack with 2 guys. Because I'll block a Mere Retriever if I kind of have to now. Obviously, they could sack in response, but it's not a real creature, so it doesn't have to go to the graveyard. We could fight over any of these, but I don't think we need to. We could also fight over the Golem Foundry, but Sprite's nice. We like a Sprite. I think I'm going to attack with all 3 now. Yeah. Because I believe I'm basically saying I will Sprite into... I'll flash in to block a guy, which I would. Right, I've only got 6 minutes left. They play another Rose's Tower, they have all the mana in the world. And we're going to make a guy to block. I'm going to say we might have ambushed you. Alternatively, we have let our guard down if you've got something good, but let's see if we can exile this for free. What do you say in response? You say you Blood Fountain, I say I tap another relic. Do you have an instant? We've obviously got the actual activations of these still. I know they exile there, so we do have to play one of these. That's a shame. So we actually needed to wait for that and then go first. But I will crack a relic, draw a card. The Fjord's not up to much. Wargo could be up to much. Let's see. Could be anything. Could be a Hydroblast. Hydroblast has looked quite embarrassing this game. Luckily we got rid of a few. Now I don't see any point in playing the Fjord. It'll either be Brainstorm, Food, or a Bluff. Another Golem Foundry. We might suffer that we gave them, keep this, and we got rid of a 3-3. Let's hope we don't. Just going to auto yield these triggers. Save a little bit of time. So they have a 3-3, so we no longer have lethal. We can just tap and exile that. So it looks like we're putting them to 1. I guess there's only 20 cards left. They're very likely to be. If I attack with 2, I can always leave back a guy to block if there's some tricks. I don't think they're likely to have a way to kill our Augur, but no, they can Candy Trail. I should have attacked for 3. So we'll block with our Augur. Importantly, doesn't have flying. Yep. Rakdos is pretty good. I think I want to crack Relic to draw a card. Scred's pretty good too. If I Scred this now, they shouldn't be able to gain any more life off of it. These stupid Hydroblasts. You're supposed to play red spells. They're supposed to be in your deck. I thought. So there's now 2 Golem Foundries. We're having to chump block twice next turn. Currently. And the game is not as close. They're topped as well. Oof. The game is not as close to being over as I was hoping. Which I was very much hoping it was completely over. So they draw the first card they topped. Presumably it's just a bauble. Like a rock of some sort, yeah. Make another guy. Let's auto you back to these. Oh man. The hits just keep on coming. There's all air in this one. I've got a map which is a third of a guy. So I have another artifact. We're just in a heap of trouble. Enough trouble where we're not worried about the fact we didn't attack for 1. More worried about these stupid Hydroblasts. Let's play an Admiral. We will play the tap plan now because we might need all of the mana we can get. And then let's pass back, looking to do some chumping, which, I thought we were comfortable. I didn't think I was going to be planning to chump a load of guys. I'm just going to auto yield. I don't see what we might draw that we can't do in our turn. Instead, they fail to find a land. So we're on chump trade. Presumably their deck is full of gas. We could save a spell stutter sprite in case we do get to save a sprite in case we draw a ninja. Just going to auto yield now. We don't have anything. No point pretending we do, I don't think. They draw 2. 1 pack dogs in there, 1's in here, so presumably there's out of pack dogs. There might not be. We're just going to get overrun by stupid golems. So maybe when we cast into fire. Oh, okay, that's good. Man, I thought we'd lock that up. I think we mis-sideboarded by cutting the Screds, or cutting the one of the Screds. I'm happy with not having the Galvanic Discharges. That makes sense. If we'd have had the Screds in our deck instead of, obviously, I thought they were going to be on a couple of red spells like a Breath Weapon, which would have been great this entire game. The other thing is that we killed a 3-3 as opposed to killing a Golem Foundry that then made more 3-3s. But I don't know. I think there was a spot where we had 3 sprites in play. We got 20 cards in before seeing a Monarch where we were stable on board. And I think basically they just drew out of it quite well. They only saw 2 insights. Presumably they have 4 in their deck. They saw 3. But Yeah, they're through most of it. But it was like the turn they incited, and we only got to counter half of it. And that was a bad beat. That was rough. I thought I'd won this match. I thought I'd won that game. I thought I was going to lose the match just due to being on time, but sick one. Right, so we are still playing for another 4-1, which, you know, is a good outcome. It's not a trophy, but it's an outcome. Familiars. Okay, I think our hand matches up fairly well into familiars. We're going to island and then island cycle to get a counterspell online. See, the relic's good in this matchup. We don't need it online straight away. Okay, we're not killing them anytime soon, that's for sure. We don't actually need the island anymore because we drew one. I'm coming straight off the back of the last game, and I find that this does happen a worryingly high amount of the time, where you kind of come off of a close game, go straight into the other, and try and make quick decisions, and just not pay the right attention in case you have a bit of trouble. I don't think we can counter a Seagate. I can't bring myself to do it. The advantage of doing it is that it uses our mana, it stops them having an ephemerate target, and, you know, there are benefits, but I'm not sure they outweigh the cost or the opportunity of having it in hand. We're just going to pass with counterspell up again. We're not really under any pressure here. We can Organ next turn and try and pick up still hold up counterspell. The relic can come down later on when they've got got some stuff going on. I'm not too worried about playing it early for any particular reason. I don't think they tend to have like a main deck way of killing an artifact, but I mean, maybe getting it through a counterspell is meaningful. But there is a familiar. I'm kind of tempted to counterspell this guy. That's good enough to warrant that, in my opinion. Good that they don't ephemerate. So let's Fairy Seer. See what we fairy. I can top this and see an Augur into a Lorraine. So it's quite a somewhere between passive and like slow greedy line, but like it gets punished if they play an ephemerate, but if they had one they'd have played it last turn on just this. What? You didn't do that when I was tapped out, you did that when I've got 1 mana up. Oh, you're a psycho. That's mad, surely. Surely that's crazy. Crazy. So with only 1 relic, they're quite likely to be able to put a card in the graveyard. Okay, it doesn't look like they are. If you can't put a card in the graveyard, then they also just get to snag this. That's okay. I'm happy with this outcome of that interaction. I'm going to play an Augur, holds a guy at home. Do I want a Scred or I don't want this Lorien? I think I want the Scred. It deals with another familiar. And then I think I'm going to just take my extra card. I'm not going to hold hackers to trigger off of sprites. Say his name and he appears. I only have 1 blue source. I do have a Mortuary Mire in play. I quite want to just Scred this. Like, I quite like having that hacker back actually. And this. Are you going to beat down? You're just building up all the mana in the world for something. So I am tempted to just counter this, right? I've got counter for 2 up. I've got Relic to deal with the first Archaeomancer effect. I've got Scred to deal with like a Murmuring Mystic type. The extra sprite is very nice. The extra hack is nice. If I bottom these, I can play the Augur, otherwise I can just keep up 2 sprites. And I'm going to keep the sprite on top So I keep the ninja on top so I can try and draw it to trigger Sprite again. Part of this is that, okay, maybe it's because they're short on blue sources, they don't feel like they've got many options, but I feel like they're playing so aggressively. Can I just double Sprite this? I think I can. We've got 2 ninjas. So we're only going to pick up one of our sprites, which is, I think, a useful detail, just so that we cover 3 mana without, having to tap ourselves out again, basically. Hello, more sprites. And I will just play the Augur. Holds back a bunch of these 1/3s. And take the Brainstorm. Showing them a spell pierce is not the best spell pierce you've ever seen. So Muldrifter's live. You're just really just brute forcing through. Brute forcing through when you've only got 1 blue mana is hard work, I'm telling you. Yay! And you get the Mortuary Mire back. I'm going to fire the Brainstorm. So I can kill the Familiar, which is nice. And I think I'm just going to keep all of this. Oh, hold on. Pick up a spell setter, not play a spell setter. Draw an extra card for free. It's a Lorien, Shock and Horror. And then do we discharge the Familiar, or do we save it and discharge the Drifter? I think I'm just going to kill the Familiar so that they won't actually have the Muldrifter this turn anyway. I don't think I'm going to crack the Relic to stop them putting a Muldrifter back on top. I know the Muldrifter is good, but the Mortuary Mire isn't quite draw card. It's kind of half of draw 2, right? Which is 1 card, Relic's 1 card. I'd rather save it for Archaeomancer. Here's what I'm getting at. And I think we're going to our turn. I don't think I want to Island Cycle the Lorien yet. It's nice to have a way to pick off the Muldrifter and keep the Scred that can deal with the Murmuring Mystic in hand. So yeah, we're looking at Scred down the Muldrifter. What's this going to be? Consistent, I guess, if you've got a Prohibit. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. This is just kind of unlucky for them. We just had it all. So you get to Muldrifter on an open board, but we will be clearing out the way pretty quickly afterwards, and then we're going to draw 3 in our turn. Say an open board, Muldrifter when it resolves. We'll kill it in response to the trigger, so they can't draw an Ephemerate. We've got the Scred, so there's no other thing that really changes what we do. We don't want them to draw an Ephemerate with Scred there. They're picking up the Mortuary Mire again. That Muldrift is going to be making a game out of it. We're going to draw 3. And it's kind of a big brick. Kind of wish I brainstormed first. If we find a ninja, that matters. We just get in for 4. We'll brainstorm now. Brainstorm or preordain? I'll preordain. Counterspell's nice. Will I have a tap land? Obviously, the counterspell doesn't do anything for us now. I'm just going to top. We're holding up Scred or Relic Crack. We're going to let them get the Muldrifter. Looks like their 2 cards aren't too useful. We're going to brainstorm now in case we find a ninja. We do. Let's put back Lorien Revealed, Mountain. Let's play our Augur. I wonder what we'll find. Another Scred. That's better than Lorien Revealed, I think. Battle. Pick up a Sprite. Tap a Relic. I think we might have missed tapping a Relic last turn at some point. Maybe we did, maybe we didn't. Hard to remember. Draw a card. Another Hacker. The sprites just keep on coming. Based on the amount of stuff that's in our hand, I'm going to make that land drop rather than hold it for Hold it for brainstorm. Feels like we've used a lot of our brainstorms. We've used only 2 of them. The Mole Drifter, does it resolve? I don't think it resolves, especially now that I've played a land out already. Like, I know there's only 1 card in the hand. We've got the sprites, we win a fight. Hey! We counter like a 4-drop. They are allowed to cycle. I can always spread these down. We've got a hacker. Fine. We're just gonna. I think the coast is clear enough where we've now got 4 fairies. We're gonna move in for the kill, try and cut off their life gain a bit. Arguably we could 5 fairies. Arguably we could have spreaded a sea gate. Okay, don't need all these fairies. I'm saying killed a sea gate and been able to attack with the rest of our gang. But let's not forget to relic them. So we've got the next draw covered with the sprite. We've got a card banked in the relic, and we're starting to chip in for reasonable damage. I'm not going to spread willy-nilly. That's a good draw. I don't want to be forced to sprite a snap or something. So I don't want to spread a random sea gate. Now they've only got 1 Gold Pharaoh's Faithful, that they will die slowly. They will die slowly. I'm confused though. I guess that it could be that they have their second prohibit, not last. We don't know it's the last. Or do they have a follow-up? Otherwise they're just feeding us things, because they saw us pick up the sprite. Also, it might just be how many sprites are in this deck? Because we've gotten our value, our money's worth, haven't we? And then I guess it's worth saying this is why, although we're not the aggressive fairy, the tempo aggressive fairies thing, spells to sprite, the fairies ninja package is still a uniquely powerful thing. I kind of want to let this go. This is not we can always find counter the thing that's better if they hit. They're taking their best out of 2 cards, but I'm doing this thing again. I think I did this earlier on against the was it Jeskai or Esper Cryogen deck, where I kind of go, I'm ahead, I can just let some of these things resolve and bleed through. But what we're letting resolve are actually real cards. Obviously, we will sprite the Mole Drifter. That's a very real card. Brainstorm's a real card too. Wow, that's a sick Brainstorm. Perfect Island Scratch. The point is we can cast into the fire, kill 2 of these sea gates. And then I'm keeping back 3 guys so that we can Commodore. Just check there's not strands. It would have been embarrassing if there was. Do 1 damage to each of these. Got him. 1 red, blue. Play the Commodore. Become the Monarch. We're leaving up Counterspell. We're drawing the Scred, and we've got a Relic. What's not to like? Yeah, so what was I saying a minute ago? I don't know if I got the thought out or if I got distracted by something else going in the game, but even though we're not doing the tempo fairy thing, the sprite being a 1/1 that can counter something and can either slowly attack in or can trade with something in combat, chump block. It is a good tempo card even in this deck when you're not playing with many fairies, but also just this late game grind of having up to 4 additional counter spells in your deck with the hackers as a counter. It's they're all excludes, right? They draw you a card as well. Yeah, it's pretty good. So I'm going to have all of my red blasts. I'm going to have my relics. Don't want my breath weapons. Torn on the 3rd monarch creature, because it is a 4-drop and it's a red 4-drop, so it can get blue blasted. So let's look at the 7 we're having, one that we might not. Don't want to cast into the fire, don't be fooled by that game where we managed to find a use for it. I don't want Spell Pierce, the game's going to go long. And then we're into like, I think these are kind of tricky trims. I can cut the discharges because we've got Red Blast, which are better. These will kill familiars, whereas the Red Blast won't, but that's not the end. That's not like, it's something. It's not something to be incredibly excited about. Mostly having 5 Red Blasts is exciting, let's be honest. And then what's the last cut? I feel like when they've got like more 1-drops you can counter, you can afford to cut Fairy Seer. When there's 2-drops, it's hard to cut a Fairy Seer. And we do need to kill them eventually, and they are good with Moonsucker Hacker. It could be the Preordain, but is Preordain better than... Like, I don't think we're finding room for this Commodore. Is Preordain better than every other card in this deck? Like, Augur's only really being cast once. We're never really picking up an Augur because it's attacked, but it does also hold back the fort against their 1/3s. Yeah, maybe it's the Preordain. So I think I'm happy with that. I do want 2 Monarch creatures because I think we're going to be quite good at keeping them on, like fighting over keeping the Monarch. But I don't think I want another one that's a 4-mana red spell. If this was blue, I would definitely have it over the alternative. Let's keep this. This hand looks pretty much great. Obviously, even better if the Augur hits. Nice, uncomplicated sequencing. We're just going to play an Augur into their mana, not going to worry about holding up counterspell. Yeah, fine. I think that's a good trade for us. Like our Augur's only 75% to even replace itself. This is a harder turn where they have white mana online. I don't really want to rely on a red blast that can get blue blasted. Not against just starting to manage their graveyard with a relic. And then we can always use a Augur as a bait spell later on. Like realistically, what this is going to be like a familiar with 2 mana open. Like if they played something, and then what? Like I don't really want to use a counterspell on a familiar when we've got the Scred, but I also don't want to run it into a counter. Do we red blast this or counterspell it? I think we red blast. Use this. Play an Augur. Hold up counterspell. Oof. Big free hit. That's not a spell pierce, that's a real spell. Again, if they have like a 3-mana spell and a prohibit or negate, that's pretty live. They're getting a lot more value out of their chanceries than they, did with having tapped mana sources last game. We're going again. I think we just counter this. And just counterspell counter it. Why are we counterspell countering this one if we did the other? In Ninja we could replay this and hold up Red Blast. There's no point trying to get smart and let it resolve and then get the Ephemerate, if there is one. Relic Q. Attack with Ninja. Attack. Trigger the Ninja. Ninjutsu Ninja. Draw a card. This isn't an island, we will island cycle. Or this isn't a land, we will island cycle. So we're going to be island cycling. Just for basic. Just for basic. It's kind of tempting to get into the red source. They kind of slammed, we traded a remove soul for an Augur. I'm happy with that trade. Otherwise, they're, just keep slamming threats. They're getting good cards out of our hand. What do we do here? We can try and Red Blast, but they could counter back, or we can try and snipe the Ephemerate with a Sprite, but that also loses to a Snap or a Prohibit. I think I'm just going to try and get the Red Blast off. I don't think there's if this works, it's very good for them. There's no two ways around it. This is the downside of not getting the basic island. Okay. They're going to have a lot. What? They didn't untap any lands. That's unfortunate for them. Do we play an Augur, or do we just hold up 2 sprites? I think we can play the Augur. I love a Lorien or here. I just want to keep making land drops. I know it's throwing away a draw 3, but the fact that another Augur blind hit, we've got an Ninjutsu to turn it into a draw an extra card for free. Or a ninja that replaces itself. That's fine. I'm pretty close to flashing in a spell setter, but I don't want to do it into a potential of a last breath. I'm happy to do it this turn when, if they have a last breath, we can sprite the last breath with the second sprite. This is just about keeping the flow going. You have to be careful with this deck. Nice that they're kind of now flooding out with the 2 chanceries still. You have to be careful with this deck not to sit on sprites as hard counters. Although I think I probably do it a little too much and just run them out. But they're not hard counters. If you treat them like they are, you end up with 2 sprites opponent. I don't mind just getting snaps. Just take a free, an easy 1 for 0. Tap the relic, target you. Obviously, we could have spited that and then Moon Circuit hacked, pick it up, but hard to say no to just unsummon in what's kind of a control mirror. Say kind of. I think it is a control mirror. I think that's a fair statement. That's relic you. I don't know why we keep doing it in weird times. My mouse is just over here and I'm looking. Trigger a ninja. Draw an extra card. I think we play land. I wouldn't island cycle another Lorien from this point, but happy to have a shuffle effect. And I think I'm going to go for this with 2 sprites. We've got the ninja to counter back. I'm going to use this for tap mana because I want to be able to keep it as a shuffle land for a brainstorm. So you work the coast clear if you have a payoff. If not, we're picking up a sprite. Actually, we're picking up a hacker and using that to pick up a sprite, which is even better. So that just turns each of these, the first one, into a draw as well, as opposed to just being a loot. The super greedy line would be to just not pick up a sprite and just hack twice. But then, on subsequent turns, you can, keep it as a howling mine as opposed to a loot. But we don't need to be that greedy. I guess I'll top. We've got the shuffle. So we've got kind of 3 layers of interaction. I'm not going to get overcomplicated. You're going to keep feeding the sprite. We're going to keep trying to take it. And that will do. Okay. So 4-1 again. Can't be angry. When you 3-0, you're hoping for a trophy. You'll settle for a 4. You don't want to crash out. The difference between 4-1 and 3-2 feels pretty big, especially from 3-0. You don't want to crash out to a 3-2. 4-1, you're fine. 5-0 is So 5-0 is the dream. So let's have a look at the wrap-up. Right, so the wrap-up. The changes to the deck in this iteration were 4 bolts into 4 discharges. We're going to talk about this first. I think we didn't play any matchups where it was super important, But familiars, you can imagine the fact that you can kill a smaller guy, pick up something later. The BlackSac, I think it was a lot better than a bolt would be. I was thinking about this because it was yesterday I actually played that match. Whether we ever got energy off of a carrion feeder or a what's it called? I think we must have done a carrion feeder or a vampire, where we deal 1 damage to it, but they could have sacrificed it and we would have not gained 2 energy net. But if we're killing other creatures, being able to store some energy and kill a bigger creature later on is a very real benefit. So Galvanic Discharge, net positive. I still like Bolt. If Bolt's in your decks, there's times it's going to be the best card you could ever draw. But I think BlackSac's going to be quite popular at this UK event, and I think I might be converted and run Discharge instead. I think it's a sensible line to me that is in line with what the deck does. I think the Bolts is almost it's an easy way out. It's kind of training wheels. Like, you can always just Hail Mary. Well, I say Hail Mary. You can always just draw a Bolt when they're at 3. That's great. The bit that I think would be underrated is that you see a lot of cards. You can be quite patient. So if you draw 1 Bolt, then you can look at, and actually, if they're at 10, you only have to do 4 more damage and find a Bolt. Then they're at 6, you've got 2 Bolts. You can make, because your positioning is such a control deck, you can, set yourself up for positions to get lucky and draw a second Bolt and just kind of sneak a win. But that being said, I'll play some more with Discharge. I think I'm converted. The other change was adding a Preordain over a 4-mana ninja. A ninja with the deep has 2 mana to ninjas. So I didn't think there was a spot where we maybe against the what's it called? Against the Tron deck, it would have been good to have a ninja, like another way to keep cards coming. As we saw against the familiars, having ways to keep picking up sprites is really powerful. Whereas this is kind of, if I say it's one of those cards, it's almost invisible when it works. The point is to just be a 18.5 with land, maybe kind of 22-ish. The thing is, I don't really want to keep too many lands where, you've only got 18 lands in there. Keeping Island, Preordain, hope to find a land, and you're in a bit of trouble if you can't, it's a bit rough. Especially if your island's coming into play tapped, or you're having to fetch it, or it's, you're fetching for it here. I think it's probably right, but it's a really hard one to judge. Other than that, I really like this main deck setup. I really like the Monarch. I like the one of casting the fire is just kind of doing a little bit enough in enough random matchups, and I like 1 relic to just kind of give you some counterplay in various matchups. Again, you see a lot of cards. Sideboard, I'm really happy. 5 red blasts, again, Terra's so popular. Terra and Mono Blue are Mono Red and Mono Blue, some of the best decks. I think you can justify having 10 of these. Love having 2 more relics. I don't think we need 4, because you board in relic a lot against decks that aren't entirely graveyard focused. And like we saw against the Ultratron thing, you can often, your relic will kind of cover their card and then you just don't crack it. I don't want to be in a situation where all of our cards are banked up in relics and not actually, flowing through our deck. Our deck's strong because once it gets going, it just keeps fueling itself. Breath Weapon, we had the game against BlackSac where we were we're just going to have to set ourselves up so that if we draw a Breath Weapon, it's good. And that's what you put them in there for. Well, no, you put them in there to draw them naturally and have them ahead of time and controlled. But yeah, we had a matchup where you'd expect to be good and it paid off. something like that. And then the third monarch creature. Again, I stand by like matchups where you probably need this most are like Jund, where you want the one that can't be red bastard. I brought it in again. I might bring it in against Familios if it was blue, but I think that's having the colour split. You can, 50% of the time you will have the right one for the right matchup. Right, that's meaningful. Right, yeah, 4-1 is what it is.